Hello and welcome to another crafting tutorial with myself, Anthony Minnis. Well, most of you probably know that I use the Bright and Light clay from FMM quite a lot in loads of my projects. And what I tend to do, I tend to just cast something, and then if it's this detailed, what I do is pop it in the freezer for about half an hour to an hour, and it basically freezes the clay and it makes it really easy to then get the clay out of the mould. Now if you haven't seen that video, please check out my YouTube channel. If you like the content, please make sure you click the like button, and if you want to be informed of the very latest videos that I produce, please subscribe to my channel and also click on the notifications button. This will make sure that you get up-to-date information whenever I upload a brand new video to my channel. Right, so getting on with the demonstration here. Like I say, I normally use the Bright and Light clay, but I've seen a lot of people use this clay, which is the Das clay. Now it's available, I do believe, in 3 colours. I got the stone colour, but there is also white and there is a terracotta. Now it is just like the clay that you probably used at school. My sons absolutely love this, and that's why I thought, well, I wonder if it will actually work for what I want, because I use lots of moulds. So first of all, I popped it into a mould, and lo and behold, I was amazed at the detail that you can actually get from the Das clay. Now, you know, I've been led to believe that this clay actually isn't that great for moulds. Well, you know, I think I've actually converted myself into thinking otherwise. So give it a go, Das clay. Now, this, unlike the paper clay, okay, does dry completely rock hard. So you can't manipulate it afterwards, you can't bend it around an object, okay, but there is still a way of doing that. So let me explain that in a moment. So like all other clays that I've used, yes, you do get shrinkage once it's actually dried, but this is quite a basic shape, and it's got sort of like fairly basic textures in there as well. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder how detailed this Das clay can actually go. So what I did, I picked up this mould from Prima Re-Design, and it's of sort of like bluebells or snowdrops. So there's a left and a right version. So what I then did, I popped the clay in, but as you can see, it is very detailed. So the next thing I did, I actually popped that into the freezer, and to my surprise, it actually worked. So this is the sort of detail that you can be achieving with the Das clay. So like I say, I've been led to believe that there's no way you're going to get detail using this clay. Well, you actually can. So what I did, I took a left and a right cast, popped it in the freezer for about an hour. Then when I took it out, I manipulated it after about 5 minutes, because then it starts to go soft again, so you can start to manipulate it. Don't press too hard onto flat areas, because it will pick up your fingerprints. So I just used a couple of tools, just like to maneuver it round and pose it, so you can see it does look very different from the original cast in shape, okay, or the mould in shape. So I took the left and the right version, and I basically posed it so it fits nicely, and it almost forms like a heart shape there, which I think you can see. So my idea is to then pop that cast in the middle there, and that's going to be the sort of design we're working on. Now, as well as making these elements with the Das clay, I also made myself the heart shape as well. Okay, so this is now nice and hard as well. So it was quite simple to actually get that shape. I basically used an MDF shape that I'd already got, and then basically I rolled out the Das clay and then just cut round it. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do first, is to actually make the plaque that we're going to use as our main element for this particular project. Now, unlike the FMM clay, okay, this is extremely sticky, a little bit on the messy side as well. Okay, so just take some of the Das clay out. Now, I probably haven't mentioned this as yet, but this is actually air drying clay as well. It is a lot heavier, and like I said, it does dry like stone. Okay, so just manipulate it about a bit, and you can see, you know, straight away you're going to get on your fingers. It's not harmful, so don't worry. Now to get a thickness or consistent thickness of clay, I basically used 2 rulers either side of my rolling pin to actually roll it out. So I'm just going to show you how I did that. I'm just making sure that I'm going to have enough clay to start with. Okay, so just knead it a little bit. Okay, and then grab yourself 2 rulers or something basically where you know that they're the same thickness. So I've got 2 rulers there. I'm just going to pop those either side. I'm going to pop my clay there, and then I'm going to start to roll that out. Now you will see that the clay does tend to stick on the roller, nothing wrong with that. Okay, so just keep on going, lifting it up and then just rolling it out. Okay, so the sort of size you want is just going to be big enough to take whatever shape you're going to cut round. In my case it's going to be the heart. So I'm just going to lift that up, and I'm using a non-stick mat here from FMM, absolutely ideal for this type of thing. So again, just turn that round. Okay, now as you will see, my rolling pin is near enough exactly the same width as the heart that I want to make. So I'm not going to really apply too much pressure now because I'm not going to use the spacers. Okay, I've got the sort of thickness that I want. It's just a case really of just adding some more clay to that so I can get my heart shape out. So let's just have a quick look. So we just need a little bit more down this side, a little around there and on the top. Okay, let's have a look and see. Right, we can near enough, I do believe, cut that out. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lift this up one more time. So a really important thing is just to make sure that you can keep on lifting it, moving it around. Okay, like so. Now you are going to have a little bit of marking, you know, sort of like texturing there. If you want to get rid of that, you've got 2 options. You can basically spray it now and then just go over with a paintbrush, or wait until it's dried and then you can actually sand it back. So it's entirely up to you. If there's obviously any like real deep ridges, then you can fill that in with some clay. So I'm just going to go over that just very, very carefully. Okay, just keep on rolling. Okay, and lift that up once more. What I'd recommend that if you've never ever done this sort of technique before, try a smaller shape to start with. This is actually quite a big heart. It's actually 21 centimeters wide, so if you've never ever done anything like this before, just go for a slightly smaller shape. Right, so our clay is now big enough. We're just going to cut it. So I'm just using another tool from FMM, okay, which is a cutting tool. So I'm literally just going to press that in and then go all the way around. Okay, and then take all of that clay off that we're not going to need, and that can go back in the bag. Okay, twist that round again and then just pop the knife in, and again just go all the way around that half of the shape as well. Okay, and again just take the clay away. So just make sure that all the clay goes back into the bag. You seal that up the best you can and then pop that into one of the Ziploc bags there, and then that's going to keep that fresh. Okay, so just pop that in there, and squeeze as much air as you can out of it. Right, so we now have our shape. So I'm just going to move that there. We need a hole in it, or well, you don't need a hole in it, but I want a hole in it, so I'm just going to grab anything that's like small and circular. So I'm just looking around my desk, and I have this, which is the top, okay, like a pen. I'm just going to simply press that into where I want the hole. Okay, give it a twist, and then pull that out, and then just going to remove the heart. So I'm just going to lift that up, okay, and just very, very carefully just take that away like so. And I'm just going to turn that round, and then we're just going to let that dry. Now, drying time for something like this, it can be a few days, okay. If it's nice and sunny outside, then what I tend to do, I tend to just pop it outside, and then every half an hour I just turn it over, okay. Otherwise you'll find that the clay, and this goes for most clays, it will start to curl up. So just make sure you keep on flipping it over occasionally, and then that'll be good to go. Now when it's totally dry like this one here, okay, if there's any sort of like texturing that you don't want, then just use a piece of sandpaper. I'm using a piece of sandpaper here that is classed as 100, okay, so it's 100 grit, and then literally I use a circular motion. And then just sand that until you're happy with the finish. So you can see quite quickly you can get a really nice smooth finish. Then just go around the edges as well, just to make sure there's no rough edges on there. Now obviously when you sand, just make sure you're not applying too much pressure, okay, and you won't need to apply too much pressure, but just make sure that, you know, on the back there it is supported. If you want, place on a piece of old MDF or something like that and just sand directly onto there. You see this one is pretty flat actually, because every half an hour, as I said previously, I just kept on turning it over so it doesn't start to warp. So I'm just going to finish the sanding of this, and then we'll be good to go with the next step. So now I have all of my elements that I want to use for my plaque. I've got the two bluebells stroke snowdrops there. I have the beautiful mould from Zuri. I've also cast these two here which says, "And they lived happily ever after." So I'm just going to have a play at sort of arranging this. I obviously want the main focal point to be these two here. So like I say, these sort of like form a beautiful heart shape. So I want to keep it as close as I can to that, so there's not too much room. So I want that banner down there, and then that one up there. So that's the sort of thing that I want. So I'm just going to stick these elements down, and then we'll come back and we'll do a black wash on this stone das clay, and then we'll go to town probably with this one and maybe actually paint all of the elements separately. So leave me to that, I'll be back in a moment. Right, I'm going to put that under a little bit of pressure just to hold everything in place so it sticks nicely, and then we'll concentrate on painting the Zuri mould. Again, just on his hair. Add to that. Okay, I think we can leave it as that. Okay, now we're going to get back to our heart made of the Das clay. So all the elements have now stuck down that we stuck earlier. I'm just going to pop our couple in the middle there, which is looking pretty nice. Okay, and then we've got the happily ever after, which is going to go sort of down there. I'll stick that in place, and then we've got this one that goes up there. So what I'm going to do now is just black all this out and then wipe it off, and then probably go over with some highlights just to bring out some of the detail, possibly go over the lettering on the moulded areas there with a gold. Let's see how it goes. So now it's the blacking out stage. All of these elements, like I said, have been stuck down successfully. So I'm just going to add some black acrylic paint to all of this. I think I'm going to need quite a bit, to be honest with you. Again, we're going to want that really watered down. Okay, so it's a really, really watery paint. Okay, so I think for speed, I'm probably going to just take this off my spray and just add quite a bit to that. Let's just pop that over there. Okay, the more watery the better. Okay, so even that is probably a little bit still. That's better. Okay, right, so I'm just going to paint over all of this, making sure that I get into all the little nooks and crannies there. Okay, so again, you need to work relatively quick. I'm using a really, really wide brush here, so it's going to take as little time as possible to get sort of like that black wash coverage over the whole lot. Okay, now when you're using watered down paints on Das clay, just be mindful because you don't want to add too much water, okay, because the Das clay does go a little bit mushy. You do need to seal it to make it waterproof. It's not waterproof on its own. Okay, right, there we go. First of all, I'm just going to take some of that off, hopefully with a dry cloth, okay, just so we can see. Okay, so a dry cloth is not probably doing what I thought it would, which is fine. So it's all about experimenting. This is the first time I've done this sort of like technique on Das clay, so I'm going to use my damp cloth. Okay, and we're just going to go in there and just wipe away some of that black. Okay, so let's just bring in the original colour of the clay, which is that. Okay, so you can see it has changed. So I'm just going to build up that black again. Okay, so just keep on going over what we have there. Okay, there's going to be no going wrong. So whilst they're out as well, I'm just going to coat those, because we want those toned down as well. They're a bit bright at the moment with that grey. Okay, so there's one bit, and then we have our larger banner, which is going to be good to go. Okay. Just pop those aside, make sure I've got into all the nooks and crannies in between those letters. Okay, and again, we're just going to wipe off some of that paint that's on there. Okay. So once we've got to that sort of stage, I'm just going to go over and have a look at those. Okay, make sure, like I say, I'm going to get into those little grannies, and then we're just going to start wiping some of the black off of those. Okay. Like so. Okay, before we go any further, I'm just going to just make sure I actually dry this now, just so it doesn't get too damp. That's the thing I don't want. Okay, so let's just dry that. And you can see by just instantly drying it that the black paint is sort of like stuck into those crevices, and the rest of the plaque is actually drying quite light, which has actually surprised me a bit. But that's the sort of the effect that we actually wanted. So I'm just going to continue drying that, and then we'll add a second coat of the black wash technique. The black on. I'm going to go for a little bit of a thicker coat this time round. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a quick blast with the dryer as well this time, just to dry some of that paint in situ. Okay, so quite a bit of a thicker coat with these ones for sure. Okay, and remember our little banners there that we cast as well. Now, although this technique is pretty messy, it does give a really nice sort of like age look to things, so it is worth it in the long run. So there we go. So I'm just going to quickly dry this just a little bit, or maybe I won't actually, because it's sort of like started to dry on there pretty much by itself. So maybe I'll just go in with my wet wipe and see what I can remove. So after all, last time it sort of come up fairly light after we actually dried it. So let's just see what we get. The wet wipe is sort of like quite a bit drier this time as well, so it's just to help tone down that sort of like brightness of the stone colour das clay. So I'm just going to go around with that. Okay, let's just go for a cleaner wet wipe. Okay. Okay. And then just on here. Okay. So just using a circular sort of motion, so I don't sort of like get any sort of like stroke marks as such. Okay, just into there. Okay, once again I'm just going to dry that and see what we get this time around. Just go a little bit deeper. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of that black off, I think. Okay, just using, as I said, a circular sort of motion. Let's go into there. Okay, let's have a look. So let's give that a blast again. Okay, we're getting this. So I'm just going to go for a brand new wet wipe here. Okay, so there's probably a little bit too much black there in some of those areas. So I'm just going to go in and see if I can take some of that out. So surprisingly, with the Das clay, paint is still coming off even though I've dried it, so that's actually quite good to know, as you can see. And it does all help age it. You know, aging techniques or paint techniques aren't normally like a quick technique anyway, so the more you go over, then more interesting and aged it's going to look. So I just want to really take off some of that. Okay, just go into there. So try to keep sort of like a circular motion, that way you're not going to get any of those sort of like telltale stroke marks which actually look like it's been wiped away. Okay, so just going around there, like so. Okay. So let's just give that another blast of some hot air just to see how it's going. Okay, so you can see now, you know, how much it's changed colour, which is great. So it's really aged. You know, that was the original colour, which is quite light, and now we've gone to that sort of like grungy, old type of look, which is just what we were after. So that's where the banners are going to roughly sit. Okay, and then we've got that beautiful colour piece in the middle there. I'm going to continue to go over this until I'm happy with the sort of look, but like I say, just keep on building it up slowly and you can't go far wrong. So we're sort of like getting there at the moment. We've got our little Zuri mould that's going to fit nicely into there. I've just cut the very ends off these little flower moulds just so that fits on nicely. That one's going to fit on there, but it just needs a little something else. So I'm going to have a go with these, which are the Stampenders Frantage. There's two different ones I'm looking at. I've got the Aged Green, the Aged Hunter. Oh, it's a difficult one to go with. I think I'm going to go for, oh dear, will it be the Aged Green or the Aged Hunter? Do you know what? I really do not know. I think I'm going to go for the Aged Hunter again, just because it's got some real green in there, and maybe that will just sort of like look like sort of like moss that's been growing in some of the crevices. So I'm going to add that, but first of all I'm just going to pop some glue just around the edges, and then I'm going to put the frontage in place, and then we'll heat it. I'm just like randomly dabbing as well, just so it gives the area for the frontage to stick a more random appearance than it just being sort of like stuck on, if that makes sense. So I'm just sort of like going over there, just dabbing with the nozzle of the glue, just so it gives a more broken up finish on there, if that makes sense. Let's have a look. Okay. So it was the Aged Hunter? It was the Aged Hunter I've gone for. So I'm literally just going to throw that on there, for want of a better term. Okay. Pop that on there. Okay, and then we'll just tap that off. So you can just see some of that green. That's quite nice. Probably needed a bit more green there. Sometimes it's difficult to like gauge what colours are going to stick, what's going to come out of the pot. You get the idea. Okay, so I'm just going to go around this side as well and do exactly the same. So what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit more detail to everything, and that's just to go over everything with a little bit of dry brushing of white. Okay, so that's going to not be too prominent, but just enough to help highlight some of those little areas there. So we're going to go for a small amount of white, and I'm just going to dry brush that over just the raised areas. Okay, so just to help bring it out. Okay, just a little bit. If you go over too heavily, then obviously that's going to ruin the overall look. So just be very, very careful when you go over. The thing is, with white acrylic paint, if you use that on the dry brush technique, what you'll find is that it's almost like transparent as well, but it just picks up on some of those really highlighted areas that you want to pick out. And it also just helps with the overall aging process of your project as well. So, like I say, I'm just going to go over some of that. So let's just pop that one in place there, pop that one in place there. You can see it's all taking shape quite nicely, and obviously we want that one in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to highlight one last bit, I do mean one last bit because I could go on forever. I'm just going to highlight the "and they lived happily ever after" in a gold colour, just to make it pop. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I have finally finished all of those elements now, so it's now time to stick everything together. I am going to put some rustic string through the hole a little bit later, but in the meantime I'm just going to make sure that everything is stuck into position. So I'm going to use the 3D gloss gel from Art Basics, and it's Finnabair stroke Prima. Okay, so let's just undo this one. Okay, and first of all, I'm just going to make sure that we stick our main feature into place, which is our couple. Okay, so I think it's probably going to go about there. Okay, so just need some of the glue on the back. I haven't gone too close to the edge because once we press this down into position, we'll probably find that it will spill out if we're too close to the edge. So just always bear that in mind when you apply glue onto something. Just make sure that you don't go too far to the edge of your design. So let's have a look. Okay, we want a fair bit on there, so obviously we want it to stick. Just pop that there for the moment, and let's have a look where we want that to go. I want it so basically the wing is touching. Maybe we could go up that high. Okay, so I'm just going to use a clean kitchen cloth just to press that down, just so, as you can see, I have mucky fingers, so always bear things like that in mind when you mix media crafting, that when you do want to stick everything together, and you don't want any more grunge on there, is just to use something like that just to help that stick in place. I'm just going to hold that up. That looks okay. So we've got that one just there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to use the glue. I'm actually going to put this directly onto the canvas in this instance. Okay. Whoops, not that much. And some on that side as well. How far can we go down with that? I think that's probably about it. Okay. So I'm just going to stick that in position. Okay, just have a look for spacing, and let's have a look. I want to make sure it is going to stick in there, so I can see at the moment it's definitely going to stick that side, but not that. So I'm just going to use a little bit more of that. Okay, just come in a little bit. Okay, you may need to help it off with a metal spatula or something like that. See if I've got one to hand, which I have. So just stick that down like so. Okay, let's just grab a little bit more from this side as well. We definitely want to make sure this isn't going to move. So just pop that on to there. Tilt it just that way a little bit. Let's just have a look. Okay. Right, so just going to clean off any glue that has accidentally spilt out. Okay, I can go back in the pot for another project. And then I'll probably just need a little bit of a damp brush, okay, just to get glue out from there. So just add a little bit of water to a brush. Okay, just wipe that away, because the thing is, this glue, once it's dry, it will show, and it does dry a little bit on the shiny side. Oops, let's just take that back. So going to the top part, okay, I'm going to apply the glue directly to the back of this time. Okay, like so. Okay, again, we're probably going to get a little bit of an overspill, but we do need to make sure the glue is going to stick everything into position. So have a look, see if it's nice and centered, which it is, and then once you're happy, just give it a last little nudge round, and again just clean up any glue that has spilt out from around it. I'll just turn this around so we can actually see what we're doing, like so. Okay. and then just going in with a damp brush once more, just to make sure that we've hidden all of that glue. Okay, let's just pop that round there. Okay, probably needs a little bit more tension around this side than it does the other. Okay. And then we are near enough done, I do believe. I'd say, bar the rustic string. That's the last thing that we're going to add. Okay, right. Near enough there, near enough there. One, just tidy that up a little bit more. Okay. Right. Swizzle that around, take one more look and see if there's anything else we can add. Do you know, I don't think there is really. I could obviously go on and on and on, but I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to add some rustic string now to that. And there we go, the rustic string has been added. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial where I showed you how I used both moulds from Zuri and also from Prima to create this beautiful little plaque. And they lived happily ever after. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I hope you can join me again real soon. Until next time, happy crafting!